What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today we're going to take a look and a listen to Democratic strategist James Carville, and he's going to be talking about what Democrats need to do. I mean, they need to have some type of a strategy when it comes to moving forward, because there are too many failures that are just falling in line and nothing's getting done. And so we're going to take a look and a listen to what he has to say. He has some really good information when it comes to the strategy that Democrats should be taking at this point. And if you guys don't know, James Carville, he was the campaign manager during when Clinton ran for president. And there's a really good documentary, and this is where I really started to follow James Carville. Let me show you this. The War Room is a great documentary. Now, they're not sponsoring this video or anything like that, but I just wanted to put this out here. This was back in 1993. James Carville, and this is George Stephanopoulos. So you see him on ABC. So he was, they were like co-campaign managers for the Clinton, when Clinton ran for president. And if you want to see a raw campaign, just basically exactly how a campaign is run, and I know because I did run a campaign. I was a campaign manager, not for anything large, but it was a smaller a local race, or it was a state race, but it was a state assembly race in California. If you want to see just how a campaign is run, you need to watch this documentary. You'll get a lot of insight. And I mean, there's scandal, of course, when President Clinton ran for president, there was some scandal. And this is, I mean, it's very, very interesting. And so James Carville, I mean, he's a very, very colorful character. I'd love to sit down and have a coffee with him, because I think he has some really insightful stories that he could share with us. But that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to take a look and listen to what he has to say. But first off, on this channel, we talk about financial news and current events. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. Okay, so now let's take a look and listen to James Carville, and he's going to talk a little bit about what Democrats need to do, what the strategy is in the next coming months to get something done, because they need to get something done, because if they don't, I don't think we're going to see anything for another 2 years when it comes down to it. That's the reality. So let's go ahead and take a look and listen. Here we go.
Democratic strategist James Carville. He's been pretty outspoken about what he thinks Democrats need to do and need to stop doing to stay in power in 2022. James, welcome back to Meet the Press, sir.
Thank you, Chuck.
I know you're. Let me start with what we're seeing right now. We're about to be at the 1 year mark. It's a tough moment for this presidency. And I know you've argued 2021 is the greatest story never told. But I'm curious. Right. You have a public that is just in a bad mood.
And I wouldn't say the public is in a bad mood. The public is exhausted. And you have a lot of people that are struggling still. They're still struggling to this day, and there's no help in sight. And we're still looking at COVID-19. We thought we would be over it by this point. I mean, there are a lot of different things that are going on. We're looking at inflation. So they're just not in a bad mood. They're struggling. And that's evident in these poll results that we're seeing, the approval rating for the president.
No, they are, right? COVID, right. They're in a bad mood. How do you sell the good stuff that you believe he can sell to a country that's not very receptive right now?
You gloat and you promote. You talk about.
Okay, now this is important what he's saying here. You gloat and you promote. So you need to talk about the things that you did do last year, because there were some things. I mean, we had a stimulus package last year. Okay, we had $1.9 trillion stimulus package, $1,400 stimulus checks, money for businesses. That was a big bill that was accomplished by Democrats only, because Republicans didn't support it. You also had the infrastructure bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So things got done last year. Some pretty big bills went through last year, but they didn't get everything they wanted to get done. And all we're talking about is the negative. We're talking about what they failed in. We're not talking about what the Democrats actually did for the American people and did by themselves without support from most of Republicans. Because even that infrastructure bill, the first infrastructure bill, you didn't have, it was bipartisan, but you only had, I think it was 16 or 17 Republicans that voted for it. Okay, that's out of 50. You had 16 or 17. So the majority of Republicans in the Senate voted, they didn't vote for it. So that needs to be, I mean, he's right here when he's talking about they need to gloat and they need to promote the things that they did that were positive.
About the fact that we pretend to care about child poverty, although no columnist that I read in the paper ever talks about it. It's the lowest child poverty rate we've had in history. We claim that we care about hourly workers. Hourly workers today have more leverage at any time they've ever had in my 77 years of existence on this planet.
And that's another thing. So he talks about the child tax credit. That's something that they should be talking about. Every day they should be reminding people that there was monthly checks that were going out to families. But that they're not talking about that right now. That should be the focus, because there are a lot of families that are going to start realizing as soon as January, it's here now, January 15th, they're not going to get a check. And that's a big deal for a lot of families. And so this is something that they need to talk about. They also need to talk about hourly wages. We were talking about the $15 an hour minimum wage at the beginning of last year. And now we're looking at a situation where hourly wage workers, they have a lot of leverage, because everywhere you go, they're hiring everywhere you go. So guess what? Because they're hiring everywhere, the people who are working these hourly wage jobs, they have opportunity. They have flexibility. They can go from one job to another. If they don't like the job they're in, they can go somewhere else. It's hard for businesses to hire people right now. And what that means is they're going to have to continue to raise those hourly wages. I saw at a popular fast food restaurant that is probably the lowest paid. I'm not even going to mention the name of the restaurant, but probably one of at the lower end when it comes to pay. They were asking $16 an hour. They had a sign out front saying $16 an hour. A big, it wasn't even a sign. It was a banner saying $16 an hour. So we're seeing businesses realizing we need workers. And in order for us to get workers, we're going to have to raise wages. And that's what they're doing. So if you are working an hourly worker, you're probably doing better than you were doing 2 years ago when it comes to how much you're making, because it is a struggle. It's a struggle right now for them to hire people. And back in the day when they were talking about the hazard pay, I thought that was a real situation where they had an opportunity. And I'm talking about Congress had an opportunity to really recognize those people who are working on the front lines, those people who were working in grocery stores during the shutdowns and all that. And that was the only place that people were going, was to the grocery store and then coming back home. And you had these people that were working these hourly wages, and they should have been given some type of hazard pay. They should have been given some type of bonus just for being there and helping the American people. But that didn't go anywhere. It was passed in the House, went over to the Senate, it died in the Senate. And so now you're looking at a lot of people who work in these hourly wage jobs. A lot of the jobs are the frontline jobs, and they're saying, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm either not going to work, I'm going to go back to school, which a lot of them are doing, or I'm going to find a job doing something else that's a little more stable. Because let's face it, some of these people had to work, they were forced to work, and then some people, like in the restaurant industry, they lost their jobs. They could have been working there 15, 20 years, and now they get laid off because of the shutdowns. So we're looking at a situation right now where there's an opportunity that Democrats have to really talk to the American people and say, yes, you know what? We hear you. This is what we've done. This is what we want to do.
All right. You talk about we want jobs, 6.4 million jobs, more jobs than any president ever created in the first term. What you do, Chuck, is you run on what you got. You don't run on what you didn't get. And the stuff you got is pretty good. If they don't pass voting rights, if they don't pass Build Back Better, run on that in 2022. All they're going to run on is the 2020 election returns or getting Adam Schiff or Jamie Raskin back with revenge. So just...
Okay, and this is another thing that was important. I tried to stop it, but it didn't stop earlier. Run on what you got. Don't run on what you didn't get. And that's what they're running on, what they didn't get, because that's all we're hearing about. Any politician that comes out right now, Republicans and Democrats, are saying what they didn't get. And that's not going to help Democrats. Okay, so if you're just running on, we'll build back better, we're still going to work on it. You even had the president out saying that pretty much we failed on the voting rights bill, but we're going to continue to fight. So they're running on what they didn't get. They need to run on what they got and then move forward with the other things that they want to get. So, I mean, he's got a lot of good points here. Really does.
Focus on what you got, what you've done, and what you want to do to make people's lives better. That's it. And you got to go out and you got to gloat and you got to promote. And if inflation is still at 7% in November this year, we'll lose anyway. But I don't think
and he's being blunt. If inflation's at 7%, Democrats are going to lose. And the reality is, when you look at just the way things go, the kind of the transition, and we see this all the time. This is no different than any presidency. Usually, if you have Democrats, if they're controlling the House and the Senate and the presidency, or if Republicans are controlling the House, the Senate, and the presidency, that midterm election, usually there's a shift. And you'll have either Democrats coming into power, you'll have Republicans coming into power. And this situation, since Democrats are controlling everything, Republicans are going to they're going to win either the House or the Senate or both. That's the norm. Midterm elections do that. That's just in history. You go back and you look, and that's what you're going to see. So this is no different. But how big of a loss will it be? That's what they need to talk about. And what James Carville is saying, if inflation is at 7%, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be really a big loss for Democrats.
a lot of people don't think that's going to be the case.
You've got a situation right now, the Biden coalition, nobody's happy. Progressives aren't happy right now with how Build Back Better has gone. African-American activists are not happy about how voting rights has gone. And if you look at the polling, honestly, the thing that's cratering the most are independents. You know, the folks that just wanted the temperature turned down. You're the president. What do you fix first?
Well, first of all, I agree with my friend Jim Clyburn. There's an expression that I love. It's called soldier owned. All right? And I don't think we have sufficiently, if you're part of the Democratic base and you don't care about child poverty, you don't care about hourly workers, then you're really not a Democrat. All right? Now, I think a lot of the Democratic base has not been told or informed of the things that President Biden and this Congress has accomplished. But to me, those are the things that if I'm a Democrat, I much more care about that than some word in a dictionary that children are going to bed with a full stomach and a warm house. I care that somebody, an hourly worker, is not sitting there working away at $7.25 an hour, and I see these signs all over, even in Louisiana and South Mississippi, $700 signing bonus. Those are real accomplishments, and there's something that you can run on. And again, you don't talk about what you didn't get. That's what these Democrats whine too much, Chuck. Just quit being a whiny party and get out there and fight and tell people what you did and tell people the exact truth. The Republican Party stands for nothing other than let's relitigate the 2020 election or let's get back at Jamie Raskin. That's it. That's the entire platform. Is
there something Joe Biden can learn about the experience you helped Bill Clinton get through after @94?
Soldier own. You had a bad week, but you had a good year. People at the end of the day are going to judge you on your year and not your week. And this is a tough, hard business. And you got ups and downs. You get bruised. You get beat up. But every president goes through this. I think President Biden, compared to his record or what's been told, is a huge differential. And I think that they're trying, I saw they were doing it. I've been talking about infrastructure since Eisenhower built the interstate highway system. Right. Man, we got $1 trillion worth of infrastructure coming up. The children that are not living in poverty today are going to ride on better roads, have better broadband, cross better bridges. I mean, this is something we ought to be really proud of as Americans. We ought to talk about it. We ought to brag about it. We ought to tell people about it. If we do those kinds of things, we'll end up with a better outcome.
Okay, and you notice at the end here, he said we'll come out with a better outcome. But it's still, like I said, when it comes to midterm elections, we're probably going to look at Republicans taking over either the House, the Senate, or both. So that's just the reality when it comes down to it. And what will they do? And that's what's going to be important. What will they do if they control the House? Are they going to work with Democrats, or are we just going to see nothing get done for 2 years, which I think ultimately will hurt the Republicans, because people are going to look and say, well, we put you there and you didn't do anything, just like we put the Democrats there 2 years prior and they didn't do anything. So it's going to be very, very hard for Republicans if they do win the House and the Senate, or if they win the House or the Senate or what have you, because if they don't get anything done, then we're still going to be looking at the same situation where the people are going to be upset, and then they're going to come back in 2024 during a presidential election and really speak out with their vote. And that could mean that whoever's the Republican that's running for president might not be able to win because of the inaction by Republicans. So this week, what's coming up this week? So we'll have a vote on Tuesday. That looks like they're going to do the voting rights bill anyway. They're going to vote on it, and it's not going to pass. And so they are going to fail on that. And so we'll have to see where they go from here. But Democrats are trying to get this voting rights bill through. Republicans are not supporting it. And they don't want to do anything about the filibuster. Democrats, Senator Sinema, Senator Manchin, they don't want to touch the filibuster. And because they're not touching the filibuster, you can't move forward with the voting rights bill because they need 60 votes in the Senate. And you have 50 Democrats, so you need 10 Republicans, and they're not going to get any of the Republicans to come over and vote for this voting rights bill. So that's what we're looking at this week. And after that, February 18th, that's going to be the next kind of deadline that we're looking at because we have to fund the government. And so we're going to have either they're going to do a continued resolution. We don't know exactly what they're going to do February 18th. But on February 18th or around that time, we already know that they want to do another stimulus package. So there's a possibility that if Congress can come together, Democrats can come together in Congress, they can get, and I won't just say Democrats, because in this situation, this stimulus package that they're talking about, they really want to target it towards businesses, and you do have some Republican senators that are supporting this. So we might see another stimulus package in February if everything goes well. So we're going to have to follow that and see where it goes. Make sure you guys subscribe and hit that little bell notification. I'll let you know all the details when it comes to this stimulus package that they're talking about. But that's what's on the horizon right now. I know it's pretty frustrating. I want to know what you guys think about all this down below. What do you think about James Carville and what he's saying? Do you think he's on point? Let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.